Sabaho and welcome back. Today we're going to talk about the brand new Samsung Galaxy A53 5G. This is the 2022 version of the A50 series. So last year we had the A52, this year is the A53. We gained 5G, but we lost the headphone jack. Does that still make it for a better phone as far as a budget-friendly phone from Samsung? And one of the things I definitely want to answer is this a better deal than the S22? I'm talking about the base model of the Galaxy S22 series for this year. This is TK and this is the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G. Let's check it out. Like and subscribe and make sure you hit that bell icon so that you're always notified to whenever we have new videos on the channel. So here is what we get in the box. We get a cable and we also get a SIM removal tool and of course the device. We no longer have a charger in the box. That's one thing that Samsung is moving towards even in the A series. And one of the biggest things between this one and last year's A52 is the fact that this is a 5G device. The A52 was a 4G LTE model. The other thing that we also gained from there is where we had a 90 Hz refresh rate last year on this device, we now have 120 Hz refresh rate. The other thing that we also saw is that Samsung decided to switch over from the Qualcomm chipset last year, the 720, over to the Exynos 1280. So we're using a Samsung Samsung processor here to power the device. So biggest differences is 120 Hz refresh rate, we have 5G capabilities, and we also lost the headphone jack that we had on the A52. The A52 didn't have 5G, it did have a headphone jack, but otherwise we still had the same configuration, SD card, screen display, and all of that, and it also had a 90 Hz refresh rate. Now the fact is that we don't have a charger in the box, but if you do need to pick one up, Supcase sent me one of their chargers. It's a USB-C to USB-C charger that will work perfectly with the included cable that comes with your device. So overall, everything in the box is pretty much a phone, the documentation, a SIM removal tool, as well, of course, as the charging cable. So as I mentioned to you guys, this device is a T-Mobile variant, and T-Mobile is only carrying one color of this. There are other options available if you go directly with Samsung. The biggest thing that we're looking at here, obviously, is we have a 5,000 milliampere battery charged with a 25-watt charger. Now, you don't get that in the box, but you're able to pick one up yourself. Again, the Supcase one works very nicely to provide us the fastest charging capability that we have here. Now, I'm going to go through some of the specifications in here, and at some point we're also going to start talking about the comparison between the value on the A53 and the S22. Understanding that I'm not saying that the A53 has better specs than the S22, but I'm actually trying to make it a case for it that actually this is a better deal, a better bang for the buck, and you will definitely get more by going with the A53 over the S22. The battery that we have here is a 5,000 milliampere battery, much bigger than the 3700 that we get on the S22, and it is charged at the same speed. So both of them are featuring the 25-watt charging. Neither one of them, the S22 being the base model, did not get the 45-watt charging. So that's one thing to keep in mind when we're looking at it. Both of them are going to have multiple camera stacks on the back. The primary shooter here is a 64 megapixel camera sensor with a 12 megapixel ultra wide and a 5 megapixel macro lens, as well as a 5 megapixel depth sensor. So literally 3 cameras that we're able to use, although the main sensor is going to be the best one that we'll be able to use to shoot basically 4K 30 frames per second, as well as the ultra wide. On the S22, we had a 50 megapixel sensor as the primary shooter, and a 10, basically that's going to be our telephoto lens, which we don't have one here, and of course a 12 megapixel ultra wide. On the front, we're looking at a large 6.5 inch display in here, and this is an AMOLED display running at 120 Hz refresh rate with Gorilla Glass 5. Very similar to what we saw with the technology on the S22. Big difference is the S22 is a 6.1 inch, this one is 6.5. It's carrying over the same display technology, although it is 120 Hz from last year's 90 Hz on the A52. So already we're looking at something that is definitely much better, in my opinion, from a usability standpoint. You're getting a much bigger display, you're getting a larger battery, which means you're definitely going to be able to get a lot longer battery runtime than you typically get with the S22. Now the processor on this is obviously the Exynos 1280. It is not as powerful as the Snapdragon or even the Exynos models of the S22, but you have to also kind of keep in mind, it's a much more powerful processor on the S22, although it actually has a smaller battery, so your battery runtime is much lower. You're kind of combining a fast car with a smaller gas tank, which I feel like the S22 is something that you need to be aware of if you're thinking of going to it. The S22 Plus will definitely do better, and the S22 Ultra will definitely do way more. So when we look over on the cameras on the front, we have a 32 megapixel sensor here on the A53 as opposed to the 10 megapixel sensor on the S22. Both of them can shoot 4K capability, obviously on the S22 because because of the Snapdragon and the Exynos more powerful processors, can definitely go higher on the resolution. But when we're looking as far as capabilities overall, both devices can shoot 4K. I still look at the power of the processor that we have in here is very nice. There's no issue as far as loading applications, bringing up things, doing things on this. The UI is very snappy. And in reality, at the end of the day, unless you're doing something very specific that requires to have the 8 Gen 1 and utilizing the full power of that, I feel like the 1280 is going to give us a very good experience overall. Stereo speakers on this device, one of the microphones sitting on the top. We have a volume rocker and a power button sitting on the right side. And of course, bottom option here is a single SIM slot with an SD card expansion. One of the microphones, USB-C for data charging, as well as audio. And of course, the bottom firing speaker married to the top earpiece to give us stereo speakers. In-display fingerprint sensor, large always on display. You can see here right there. I'll give it a second to turn back on. Always on display is present right there, and of course you get the battery status and so on. So as you can see here, One UI 4.1, Android 12, and we are running March 1st security patch update. So it is definitely very nice. And again, T-Mobile's been running and pushing out their updates very consistently. Now, when it comes down to Geekbench and scoring from benchmarking, this is going to score a 737 with an 1872. There's no enhanced processing on this device. This is something that Samsung's not throttling the Exynos processor. So you're going to be getting basically pretty much the standard performance across the entire system. And you're able to basically access and again expand the storage with the SD card option at the bottom, as well as the ability of basically just getting everything customized. We have the side panel in here. One thing to mention also, we do have support for good lock, so customizations are definitely going to be even more capable here with the different modules that we have. You can see here I switched over and installed it. I changed my recents application. You're able to install all the different modules that you want. You're also able to install the one-handed mode, key cafe, theme park, and of course sound assistant. For me, I love the fact that I can actually use, most recent functionalities here, like the one-handed mode, ability of jumping to the most recent app back and forth, and of course I can go back by just doing this. It makes things a lot more functional and much easier to handle a device that's this large. Again, a 6.5-inch display with a 5,000 milliampere battery. You're definitely not going to be running out of battery for any time soon. And we still have technically a faster than usual, the 25-watt charging capability that we're able to do it. It's just that you need to make sure to buy your own charger because it's not included in the box. So where we start talking about essentially the overall experience and what we get here, the camera experience on the S22 is definitely going to give you a much better experience. And I'll say by the definition is you're getting capabilities that the Qualcomm or the Exynos processors can give you that the 1280 may be limited by. And one of those things, the limitation that we're looking at is the fact that this device can only shoot 4K 30 frames per second on the main sensor on the back, as well as the primary sensor on the front. So 4K 30 is capable, so we do definitely get 4K. We're going to get a sample in a second. Obviously, photo mode, portrait mode. There is this new fun mode here. This is one thing that they added in here and gives us the ability of jumping in between the basically the ultra wide and a digital cropped version of it. Now, since we have a macro lens, we have a dedicated macro sensor mode in here. Night mode, pro mode, pro video, single take is here. It's not sitting at the top. Panorama, slow motion, super slow-mo, and of course hyperlapse. And you're able to jump in and do different things from there. Let's do a quick sample of the front-facing and the back-facing sensor on the A53. We're going to start off with the front-facing camera right here on the brand new A53. And the really nice thing is that we can actually shoot 4K on the front and on the back. Now, 4K 30 is not going to be obviously 4K 60. But the reality is, for the price point, for the features that we're getting here, from more of a budget-friendly device, this is definitely a very nice capability. So 4K 30 on the front, let's go ahead and switch over to the main sensor on the back and shoot 4K 30 frames per second as well, but on a bigger sensor. Now, when we switch over to the main sensor on the back, the nice thing actually, we can shoot 4K 30 frames per second on both basically the standard and the ultra-wide. So you have a little bit of flexibility. So in reality, this is actually a very well-balanced experience. Not only do we have 4K 30, but we have it across the lenses that we have in here. And again, definitely the ones on the back will give you the best experience when it comes down to performance on the A53. And that was a pretty quick sample of what we get from the front-facing and the back-facing sensor on the A53. And again, we're using the internal audio built in here, so the microphones that are built into this device. Now let's talk about the speakers and what we're able to do with the speakers on this device. Again, stereo speakers, one firing downwards away to the right of us, and the other one's going to be firing towards us since this is using the earpiece. So one thing to mention to you guys, the experience between the A53 and the S22 are pretty much almost on the same level. They're pretty much very much indistinguishable, and this is one of the things you're definitely going to be appreciating, the fact that you're not really missing out from going one to the other when you're watching content. This is Alex Scrindo, Jumbo by NCS Release, our favorite song on this channel. Let's go ahead and jump in.
Jack it up.
And as you saw there, or actually as you heard, the audio quality is actually pretty good. It's not the loudest phone on the market, but again, you're getting the exact same experience on the S22. It sounds loud enough for us to enjoy content if we're watching movies and so on, obviously Netflix and so on, any other shows like that. And the best way to be able to enjoy content on this device are going to be basically two ways. Either the speakers that we have in here, or you can use a wireless pair of buds, or you can also use a wired USB-C pair of audio interface here. The audio performance and the decoding is definitely better on the S22, but this is still actually really nice. But if you are looking for something to give you an audiophile level quality audio off of your device, my recommendation, you can actually pick up something that will make your audio even better, and this would be the Helm Bolt. This actually provides us a better audio performance even than the S22 can give us. Keeping in mind that the S22 does not have a headphone jack, and this would still give you the ability of actually not only using it as a headphone jack, but also as an audio interface to bring in audio into your device. So definitely very nice and very simple to actually interface. And again, this will make any audio interface that, or any audio that you listen to, be it on your PC, on your phone, it's just going to work and it's going to give you much better audio. The Helm Bolt is one of my favorites. Now, being that this is a 5G device, and of course, the fact of the matter is this is one of the biggest differences from last year's A52, which is a 4G LTE. It also supports not only the 5G capabilities here on T-Mobile, but it also supports the UC, the ultra capacity, utilizing the new Sprint bands that we were able to get, or they were able to acquire part of the merger with Sprint. So you can definitely see speeds of up to 388. I've also been able to see in around the 400, but you can definitely see uploads and download speeds are going to be crazy good on the A53. So again, a big benefit over last year, although we lost the headphone jack. In my opinion, it wasn't necessarily the best headphone jack on the market. You could definitely get something like this to be able to augment the audio on this device, or even the A52 from last year, as well as the S22. The biggest difference, as I mentioned to you guys at the beginning, is that this device supports 120 frames per second. We have capabilities of Android 12, all the functionalities. Motion smoothness, you can keep it at 120 or at basically 60 frames per second. And because of the configuration that we have in here, the larger battery, the 1080p resolution display, you're definitely going to be getting a much better lifespan as far as battery life and performance on here. Gaming on this, of course, is going to be very much a similar experience. It's not going to be a bad experience. So I went ahead and installed Asphalt 9. And you actually have access to the game system here that's built in. And you're able to access it from here. There's also the application function that you're able to add. All of the different functionalities you have built in here. And of course, enjoying content on this device is going to be also one of the biggest things that you could definitely appreciate here. As you saw there, the gaming experience is actually going to be really good. The audio is also really nice there. We have the capabilities of Android 12, functionality, security updates, the ability of customizing with good lock, the ability of enjoying all of the functionalities that we want. The cameras, 4K 30 frames per second from the front all the way to the back, so you definitely get a more consistent, uniform experience across the device. Now, I'm not trying to say that the A53 is a better phone on paper spec-wise than the S22. The S22 for sure has better specifications. Not in every single aspect, but in general it has better specifications. It's the 8 Gen 1, obviously with the better Exynos processor from Samsung, and the 1280 obviously doesn't stack up. But let's look at them and exactly how does this translate into user experience, user functionality at the end of the day. A 3700 mAh battery with a more powerful SoC, the 8 Gen 1, on a device that's a 6.1-inch display is just not going to last you as long. This is just the fact of the matter. Unless you really want a smaller form factor of what the S22 gives us with a 6.1-inch display, I really think that the A53 just kind of knocks it out of the water. 5000 mAh battery. We have a slightly, well, it's a less powerful processor, but less power-hungry processor. And of course, we have a 6.5-inch display. 120 hertz still across the board, and they both charge at 25 watts. So neither one gets the leg up on the charging, although wireless charging is on the S22, but I would argue saying it really isn't as fast. So reality of the matter, at the end of the day, on paper and on spec, it may sound like the S22 is a better deal, but reality after using and what people value the most, people value longer battery life and more consistent usage. And I really think the 1280, the Exynos 1280 will give you that. Now, we lost the headphone jack from the A52. If you want that, the A52 is still available to purchase. But I would argue saying that having 5G with ultra capacity is a better deal because you get better connectivity and more functionality. We still have SD card support and we still have stereo speakers, so definitely very nice. And we bumped up the refresh rate to 120 over the 90 hertz refresh rate from last year. So when you start kind of putting all of these together and really realizing what you value the most, I still think the A53 provides us a much better experience. Well, I do want to talk about DEX and of course screen mirroring, because I'm pretty sure somebody in the comments is going to jump in and say, well, the S22 has the, DEX and so on. Yep. The S22 definitely has that, and that is something that you want to value, and you definitely want to jump in on the S22. Although I would argue saying that maybe the S22 Plus or the Ultra would be a better design, mostly because of just the battery performance overall. Again, 3700 milliampere battery. I'm not sure why was this done this way. Maybe it's in a way trying to give you a kind of like a stepping up. So you go in to look at the S22, and then you see that the S22 Plus does so much better, and then you may want to go with there. For me, I'm actually trying to argue the other way, trying to go a little bit less, providing you better bang for the buck. And again, still a very good, solid performer from Samsung. So the A53 is available in multiple options, carrier versions as well as unlocked. At the end of the day, my hope is that you found this video helpful and it helped you decide if the A53 5G or the S22 5G is a better fit for you. Like and subscribe as usual. Thank you very much for the support. I'll see you in the next video.